Hi, friends. Our planet is changing, and the signs are all around us. From rising temperatures to melting ice caps, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's happening right now, right here. So, this video, friends, is to introduce you what exactly is the climate change and then lead you to my course on carbon footprint calculations. Dear friends, there is now a consensus about climate change. And what do you understand by climate change? By climate change, we mean extreme weather patterns. Extreme weather patterns are becoming more frequent, more intense, right? And this is, as the scientists would agree, causing the temperature of this earth to rise. So, the scientists which have documented their findings in the international report, they say that the earth's temperature is rising at an alarming rate driven by human activities. So, climate change is a long term alternation of the Earth's climate caused by human activities. And what activities are they referring to? They are referring to the activities like our dependence on fossil fuels, and by fossil fuels, I mean coal, oil, petroleum, right? It could also include the climate change caused because of rampant deforestation, which is responsible for the urban life and the agriculture to grow the food. So, all this has resulted in the change in the weather pattern, and that is the climate change. Now, why does this happen? The main culprit, as I said, are the greenhouse gases. The greenhouse gases would be carbon dioxide, would be methane, would be nitrous oxide. What they do? They trap the heat in our atmosphere. And when they trap this heat in the atmosphere, that would lead to the heating of the atmosphere, which is known as global warming or climate change, right? And as I said, the main culprit for this is the fossil fuels, deforestation, and unsustainable agricultural practices, which are accelerating this process, right? But still, there is hope. And this hope is that we can act, we can take the action necessary to mitigate and to adapt to its impacts for a sustainable future. Right? So, this is what the video is about. So, as I said, the main reason for climate change is the greenhouse gas emissions. And once you are clear about these causes, why are we worried about the causes? We are worried about the causes because if we know the causes well, if we understand the sources which are responsible for climate change, then we as human beings, we as a mankind, could intervene and take steps in reducing this causes, right? So burning of the fossil fuels, which is important aspect in the industrial economy. This leads to the release of greenhouse gases, as I said. And I was referring to the greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, right? Carbon monoxide. And all these greenhouse gases would trap the heat from the sun and cause the Earth's temperature to increase. So, the first major cause is the dependence of the human beings on the fossil fuels, right? And let me repeat again, What do you understand by the fossil fuels? Fossil fuels means the fuels which are obtained from the fossils, right? And these are obtained from mining coal, or from the excavation of petroleum. All this high energy hydrocarbons, these are driving the economy, and they are being burned in the furnaces, they are burned in the industries to produce steam, to produce heat, and this is driving the production of the major things, including electricity, right? And the other cause of global warming is deforestation. And deforestation means what? Deforestation means we cut down the entire forest. We means the human beings. We as a mankind cut down the entire forest, and this is to make available the open space. And why do we require open space? We require open space to increase the settlements, right? To have build houses, to build industries, right? And also to practice agriculture, right? So this deforestation, if it is rampant, right, some sort of deforestation would be there. But when you are talking about deforestation to the scale which we are referring to, so if this deforestation is rampant, as we have studied in our school days, that this would lead to the decrease in the carbon dioxide absorption. So it affects the carbon cycle, because you all know that the trees, they would absorb the carbon dioxide, they would help fix the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So this cycle, the carbon cycle, is disturbed because of deforestation, right? And additionally, it also would result in the erosion, right? Because you know that trees, with the help of roots, would hold together the soil, and the landslides which are happening nowadays, right, or the soil erosion which is rampant nowadays, that is because there are less number of trees. If the tree cover is less, there would be more erosion, and which would release the carbon again, which is stored in the soil. So this is another important reason why there is a climate change. Okay. uh, Agriculture, or as we refer to it as farming, this affects the climate in a number of ways. One, as I said, is when we practice agriculture, we essentially need to uh, deforest the land. We need to cut down the trees over those lands, and we need to bring more and more land under agriculture, right? So when you practice agriculture, we basically generally the conventional methods are cut down the trees and bring more area under agriculture. That is one. Second thing is that we after green revolution have started using lot many pesticides and fertilizers. All these pesticides and fertilizers are basically coming from fossil fuels. And as I said, fossil fuels are responsible for release of greenhouse gases. So when we produce fertilizers, the production of fertilizers itself is a highly energy intensive process that also results in the release of greenhouse gases. When we are applying pesticides, the pesticides also are being produced in the factories, and that would also cause the greenhouse gas effect, right? Moreover, the way uh, we means the industrial economy practice livestock farming, that also reduces the potent greenhouse gases, especially the methane. So methane and nitrous oxide, these are important greenhouse gases which are being produced because of the modern farming practices, right? And as I said, this is because of the use of fertilizers. It is also because of the way we practice the livestock farming, right? So the slide which I have drawn here, that shows how the carbon cycle is disturbed, and how there is an additional emission of greenhouse gases, including nitrous oxide, methane, right, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, All these are shown. You also see here on the slide there is a use of tractors which are driven by fossil fuels, which would again emit some CO2. Application of fertilizers, as I said, would release the greenhouse gases. And again, by practicing the agriculture in by cutting down the trees would uh, help increase the CO2 emissions, right? uh, an important contributor to the greenhouse gases is the way we move around, right? And we have evolved ourselves. We have reduced the time of travel by lot of discoveries and inventions. We have rail, we have cars, we have aeroplanes to travel, right? All this, we have trucks to transport our goods, we have ships to travel long distances via water. So all this, these generally they are run on the fossil fuels, petroleum products, right? So be it cars, be it aeroplanes, be it trucks and ships, they are all basically driven by the fossil fuels. And when the fossil fuels are burned in the engines of these vehicles, it's basically the combustion of the fossil fuels, hydrocarbons, which would release the carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. Right? So transportation significantly contributes to the greenhouse gas emissions, right? And hence the cars, trucks, airplanes, and shipping, they are the significant sources or significant causes of greenhouse gas emissions, right? Now, consumerism, right, which is referred to as our dependence on manufactured goods, right, and an increasing amount of purchasing power of the human beings, leading to an increase in the demand, that is called as consumerism. And that consumerism has resulted in a lot of growth, lot of demand for industrial products, not only of industrial products but also consumer goods. But even if you talk about simply the industrial products, like the demand for cement or the demand for steel, why do we require cement? Cement is used in building houses, right, in building factories. So does steel. So in RCC constructions, steel is used widely. So steel and cement, if you look at the way they are being produced in the industries, they are highly energy intensive products. So manufacturing cement or manufacturing steel requires a lot of energy. There are furnaces which burn fossil fuels, and lot of fuel is burned there. Lot of fuel is being used for manufacturing cement and steel. So that releases the carbon dioxide, right? It reduces the other greenhouse gases. So this industrial processes are also responsible in a big way in emitting the greenhouse gases, right? Now, why are we understanding the causes? We are understanding the causes because if we are clear about the causes of greenhouse gas emissions, which are responsible for climate change, then one can measure those and one can make attempts of reducing those. As I said, we need to now discuss a bit about to what severe effects this climate change thing is having on our planet. So, the first effect which needs to be discussed at length is the rising temperatures. For the past century, the global temperatures have risen by more than 1 degree centigrade. It may not sound like much, but, and say, even a small changes in the temperature and have huge consequences. So when I'm saying that the global temperatures are risen by more than 1 degree centigrade, we need to be serious about it, because even a small change in temperatures alters the environment and it produces huge consequences. Like say melting of ice and rising sea. As the temperatures rise, let's try to understand a bit of geography and physics here. As temperature rise, the ice caps at the poles and the glaciers, they are melting at the alarming rates. So since 1993, sea levels have risen by over 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters, mind well. And what does that mean? It means that if you are having a rising sea levels, that endangers the coastal cities, that endangers the communities living nearby the coast, and that might lead to huge displacement of the population staying in the low-lying areas. So if the current trend continues, was the scientists, many iconic cities, including Miami, Mumbai, Tokyo, could be underwater by the end of the century. And that is serious. So, this is an important aspect we need to consider about the climate change. And the third aspect is the extreme weather conditions, which are leading to increased frequency and intensity of natural disasters. So, what I mean by extreme weather? Extreme weather events, if you look and if you read the newspapers carefully, you understand that they are becoming more frequent, more intense. Like wildfires are scorching entire forests, hurricanes are more destructive, droughts are affecting millions of the people. So these are being reported in the news. These events aren't just devastating the environment, they are costing the lives and livelihoods. So these are very serious, right? So the global temperature rise resulting in the melting of the glaciers, increase in the sea level rise, and increase and changing weather patterns have altered the globe. It has also threatened the biodiversity. Climate change has been a threat to our planet's biodiversity. Coral reefs, the rainforests of the ocean are dying, as per the reports of the scientists, due to the rising sea temperatures and acidification of the oceans. So, the species that had lived in harmony there with their environment for centuries are now at the risk of extinction. Right. So this are the effects on the environment and obviously on the human mankind. Uh, Directly also one needs to see that there is a direct impact on the human beings. So what are they? Climate change isn't just an environmental crisis as I've been discussing. It is a humanitarian crisis. The rising temperatures and the changing weather patterns are threatening the food security, the availability of food. It is displacing millions of the people from their homes and they are fueling conflicts over the resources. So, this displacement, food insecurity, and all those things also result in significant health impacts. The health impacts could be respiratory illness, it could be heat strokes, or it could be pandemics. Like COVID, we had expressed COVID, right? So, thus, huge impacts, huge effects of the climate change has sent an alarming bells, right? And hence, we need to look for solutions. Okay, so there is hope. So what is hope? The hope is we can reduce carbon emissions. And how can we? So we can reduce carbon emissions by adopting sustainable practices and mitigating the adverse impacts of climate change by this three rule principle. What are these three rules? One is to drastically reduce the consumption. Drastically reducing the consumption of the materials, of the goods, is going to lessen the impact on the environment, because that would mean lesser emissions, lesser use of the fossil fuels. So reducing the consumption itself is very important. The second is try to reuse. As a society, we need to change our culture, and instead of buying new goods, new materials, if we can reuse the goods, reuse the materials, that is going to reduce the impact on the environment. And recycling wherever possible means, again, less need of mining, less need of our dependence on the fossil fuels. So reducing, reusing, and recycling can help claim back our future. The future is still is in our hands. Together, we can slow the effects of climate change, and we can protect our planet for the generations to come. So the time to act is now. And how do we act? So the solutions being discussed by the scientific community is we need to move fast to renewable energy sources like solar, like wind and hydro. We need to improve upon the way we use energy. I mean, we need to improve the energy efficiency of the end use appliances. We need to use more energy efficient lights, more energy efficient appliances, and also more energy efficient transportation systems, including public transportation systems. There is talk about promoting and cycling and building walking tracks, building cycling tracks, especially in the European countries. That are that is one of the solution to mitigate climate change. Implementing sustainable land use practices like reforestation and regenerative agriculture are the ways of growing our food more sustainably. One can think of uh, government intervention in the form of carbon taxes. One can think of regulations like emission norms, more stringent emission norms to regulate the greenhouse gas emissions. So these are the policy interventions one can think of. And one can think of a lot of investment in green technologies and innovation. So these are some ideas which come to our mind when we talk about the solutions to the climate change. Finally, because it is important for us to know how much we are contributing, how much carbon footprint we are generating as individuals and businesses. We need to have a clear understanding about the calculations of carbon footprint. So, carbon footprint, if we are able to calculate as an individual how much I contribute to the environment in greenhouse gas emissions, how much as an individual I emit greenhouse gases, that is a carbon footprint of an individual. How much as a company I emit greenhouse gases, so that is a carbon footprint of a company, of an enterprise. How much carbon footprint for the entire nation can be calculated. So all this requires very fundamental calculations, and I have tried to explain those calculations in my course on carbon footprint. So the name of the course is Learn How to Calculate the Carbon Footprint, and the link of this course, which is a hugely popular course on Udemy, is provided here. It is also provided in the comment box where you can straight away paste, cut and paste it and use it for registering for this course. So this course on learn how to calculate carbon footprint would help you understand from the first principles how to arrive at the carbon footprint of an individual or for a family or for an industrial enterprise, right? And if we are able to quantify such carbon footprints, then we can also take steps and convince ourselves that we can reduce our carbon footprint. The understanding of the basic concepts as to what is contributing to carbon footprint would help us take the necessary actions and mitigate climate change. So on this note, let me stop this video. See you. Bye.